Okay, so today we are going to look at adding and subtracting fractions. This is in your green Big Ideas math book on page 42. The only key vocabulary that we have on here today is least common denominator, which is very similar to least common multiple. So you want to make sure that when you are adding and subtracting fractions, you have the same denominator. Right here in this first example, you can see that they're trying to find the sum of 5/8 plus 1/6. You cannot just add them together, so you have to find a common denominator. One way that you can find a common denominator is just by multiplying the two denominators together. If you do that, then you know that you are working with your with a common denominator, because they're both factors and they make that number. So here they decided to show this example using that method by multiplying the two denominators together. So 8 times 6 and 6 times 8. Whatever you do to the denominator, you also have to do to the numerator. So 5/8 times 6 over 6 and 1/6 times 8/8. And you end up with 38/48, or 30/48 plus 8/48. When you add those together, you end up with 38/48, which is a really big number and also needs to be simplified. So you have to divide your numerator and denominator by a common factor. And the only common factor that they have is 2. So you divide 38 and 48 by 2 and end up with 19/24. Now you could have done this problem, this very same problem, a slightly different way by using the least common denominator, which they didn't do. They used a easy common factor versus the least common factor. So your least common factor, they actually use that example down here. The least common factor, or the least common denominator, is 24. It's not 48. See how 24 comes first when you list out your multiples? So it'll be the exact same steps where you have to multiply your numerator denominator by a common factor. You guys can see that well enough. To write equivalent fractions. Oh, that's why. Hold on. That, hopefully that will help. Okay, so you have to multiply your numerator and denominator by that common factor. So 5/8 times 3/3 and 1/6 times 4/4. But see right here where you add, you get 15/24 plus 4/24, and then you have 19/24. You don't have to simplify because you use the least common denominator. So that is one of the really basic benefits of using your LCD, your least common denominator. We're only going over examples 1 and 2 today because that's what your homework is going to focus on. We'll go over adding and subtracting mixed numbers tomorrow. But I did want to show you a couple of different things on my notes that I wrote down. Zoom out. Okay. So here we have just rewriting our, what are these? Oh, these are just some examples that I had of adding fractions. So you have to have common denominators in order to add fractions. But down here I have just some extra examples of how to rewrite your problems. I like to do my math vertically. I like writing them up and down. It's neater, it's cleaner, it makes things a lot easier for me to see. And then I can also show this part where I'm writing equivalent fractions a little bit better. So 1/3 plus 2/5 is my problem. 3 and 5, I have to find the least common multiple first, and that is 15, which just happens to also be the same number. If I multiply 3 times 5, it gets 15. So that's, I mean, you can always do that. And fortunately, this time I did not have to simplify because that's just one more step that I didn't have to make. So 1/3, I multiply it times 5/5, and I get 5/15. 2/5, I multiply it by 3/3, so 3 over 3, and I get 6/15. I add the 5 and the 6 together to get 11. I keep my denominator the same, and my answer is 11/15. Here's another example. This just shows the difference between using an LCM, where my answer is going to be really easy to work with, numbers that are really easy to work with, 3/18 plus 10/18, versus if I had used 54. So if I just use the number that occurs, the product of 6 and 9, my answer is going to be really big. Do you want me to scratch it out real quick and show you how big it is and then how much simplifying we have to do? I can. Okay, I'll put it down here for those of you that want it. Otherwise, you can skip this part real quick. It's 1/6 plus 5/9, 6 times 9, 1 times 9. This will be times 6. So then I have 9/54 plus 30/54. I have 39/54. Now, if I didn't already know that my answer, 13/18, is the correct answer, I'm going to be spending some serious time with my calculator or with my brain power trying to figure out if 39 and 54 have a common factor. And they do. It's 3. So then I have to divide my numerator by 3 and my denominator by 3, and that's how you get 13/18. So you get the same answer, it's just a bit more steps and more brain power. And why do that when you can just use your least common multiple, okay? And then the other examples that are attached in the file for notes is on adding and subtracting mixed numbers, and that we will talk about tomorrow.